G'day lads and lasses, and welcome to another video. First, I just want to apologise. These are going to be running around like ferals. It's going to be raining on the roof, and you'll also hear thunder in the background occasionally because the day I've chosen to film, we're happening to get a storm. I recently moved to Warwick, and as you can see in front of me, I have an anvil, and behind me I have a gas forge. So for the longest time, for as long as I can remember, probably ever since I played Skyrim, I've always wanted to get into blacksmithing. A couple months ago, I bought myself a decent anvil, bought myself a pretty cheap gas forge, and figured why the hell not, let's get into it. So I knocked up this little anvil stand here, and now I'm kind of just around and finding out. The point of these is I'm just making a video journal from a complete beginner. Hopefully one day I'll be making amazing things and I'll have really specialised tools. It's going to be me just chilling in the shed with the anvil and the forge and the hammer and the lightning and the storms and the dogs and everything else in between. Pretty much without further ado, we're going to get started on the first project, and I've realised my brother's birthday is coming up. It's fast approaching. Mason, it's okay, it's just lightning and thunder. What better gift than a fire poker? I've made like two before, so I'm going to have another go at making one today. The rain's starting to come down now, so I might actually have to just cut out what I'm saying right now and just go over it with audio instead. So you've all seen the regular shape of a fire poker, probably. Very basic shape, so you can see that there's a little hook on the end and you've got your handle at the back. What I want to attempt to do, because I haven't done a scroll yet, believe it or not, I haven't even attempted a scroll. There's also another fancy sort of fire poker head that I haven't tried before. Instead of having the hook come out like on the side of that, where I have to weld it in place, I'm going to attempt to make a hook with just one piece. So basically fold it over on itself. Middle of that folded piece becomes the pointy bit, and then the hook actually folds over to the side. That's going to be attempted. Whether it works or not, we're going to find out. Good day to film, Harry. Good day. I don't even know what I said then. So obviously the first thing we need to do is cut the material itself. I'm just using 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square stock, cutting off the piece, and that's about the only time I'll be using power tools aside from the cleanup at the end. But always make sure safety first. I've got Hearing Pro on, trusty safety glasses, standing away from where the angle grinder blade may go, and also sparks. So you can see my shirt that I'm wearing is a nice cotton shirt. I'm wearing cotton pants. Made the mistake once of wearing a exercise shirt while I was cutting something with an angle grinder and didn't realise until I looked down that I burned a hole through my shirt. Lesson learned, it was a good shirt and I ruined it. Make sure you wear something that can withstand sparks when you're dealing with sparks or heat. I'm going through the video separately and looking at it and seeing what I actually need to capture, so there's probably going to be bits that I missed, but the next step, we're just going to move on to the forge, fire it up, and then we're good to go. Don't worry, they're completely unbothered by me hitting hot bits of metal around them apparently. They're not concerned at all. These hammers are quite old. I didn't inherit them. I bought them ages ago as part of like a toolkit because every man needs a hammer. Now they're a bit aged and they need a bit of work, but I keep a glove on my hand that holds the work, and I keep my hammer hand ungloved. Rarely will I glove my hammer hand because I learnt early on that if you have a glove on your hammer hand, you have to really grip the hammer and it makes your forearm tire out a lot quicker, you fatigue a lot quicker. So what I'm doing here is I'm just tapping it on the edge, just trying to flatten it down. So we're attempting to make a ribbon tape. It's not my first time heating steel or hammering it, but this is my first time attempting a ribbon taper. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lessen the thickness of it, but keep it the same width. From the side view there, you'll see that it's thinning out. So you didn't need to see the whole process of me doing that, but basically I've picked up the ball peen now because it's a bit easier to swing because it's maybe only a 300 gram hammer. Getting out a lot of those hammer marks. Hammer marks look good. I see the artistic value of hammer marks, but this is going to be in the middle of a scroll, so you're not going to see them anyway. So what I'm doing is just smoothing it down, hitting those edges back in, trying to get them squared back up, trying to get everything nice and consistent, straight, square, level, all that sort of good stuff. I've got to keep it hot while I'm doing this because if I do this too cold, you'll start to get, you'll see it. So basically there'll be these little flecks, for want of a better term, there'll be these little flecks that come off and they will actually fold back into the metal and they'll become quite brittle. But I also want to keep it a nice consistent thickness because if it's not a consistent thickness, when I go to scroll it, it actually won't scroll evenly. Well, that's what I've heard. I haven't attempted it yet, but you're about to see me attempt to scroll it. So go back to the bigger hammer just to flatten it out a bit more because I want a bit more length on that taper. So that's a pretty good ribbon taper there. Just got to clean it up a little bit more with the ball peen. Right, so now we're changing angles because we're going to attempt this scroll. This was my first time attempting a scroll. I literally watched a video 5 minutes before I did this just to double check I was doing it right. It didn't quite turn out the way that I imagined it turning out. I was pretty well happy with the result nonetheless. The tricky part was trying to keep that scroll going nice and straight, because you can see there it's trying to twist over, and that's because it wasn't quite consistent with the thickness of the metal in that area. It's become difficult to twist it over, and I missed it there with the hammer strike, so I'm still working on my hammer control. This is the point where I realized, I bent it too much. Bugger it. I just gotta keep going with it. So I chucked it in for another heat. Now just hammering it back in. So I was originally going to make a slightly bigger scroll, but this one kind of folded up on itself to the point where I really couldn't do any more work on it. And that part right there was really satisfying when it was poking out at the end and I just tapped it and all kind of folded back in on itself. That was very satisfying. I highly recommend that. That was a lot of fun. I don't know why, just for some reason that one hit with when everything pushed back together was very satisfying. Kind of like going to the chiropractors and get your back cracked. What I'm doing is I'm going to put a twist in it before I sort of fold it back into a handle, because it's very hard to, twist a handle. You kind of got to do your twists before you do anything that puts it in a position where you don't have it nice and straight. This is my twisting tool. It's just a pair of multi-grips, because I haven't built a twisting tool yet, so it's something I should probably work on next time. But I've got that bit of aluminium sitting in the vise so that the teeth on the vise don't mar the metal when it's hot, because it's very soft. It's very easy to mar it. I did it the first time I ever twisted a piece of metal. I was like, oh, okay, well, don't do that again. So I got myself these little offcuts of angle aluminium, chucked them in there. They work quite well. They hold up to the heat. But basically heating the steel up to a sort of golden heat, not quite white, not quite gold, but sort of a nice yellow orange sort of heat. And then very quickly transferring it to the vise. This is my favorite part. I love twisting metal. Just grab a hold of it and all you do is yank it. You'd be surprised how soft this stuff is. I love it. I love how soft it is. Going 1.5 full turns, and I want to make sure that everything's, and I'm checking right here to make sure everything's in line and square. You'll see all that scale crumbled off beautifully. It's a very satisfying part of doing this work. So after we've twisted it, we take it back over to the vise, give it a brush to get rid of that scale, because it's very hard to clean them up when you turn them into handles, trust me. And then chucking it back in the furnace to heat it up so we can give it a straight. Really light taps with a ball peen just to get it nice and straight. And I'm constantly holding it up at arm's length, looking down the shaft just to make sure that it is straight. I don't want to hit it too hard, because if I hit it real hard with the ball peen, it will leave marks on those nice lines that we got in the twist. So this is about the point that I realized I needed to make 2 parts to this video, because it is going to run quite long. But basically I'm trying to figure out right now which way to bend the scroll, and I do this every single time I make a handle. So because the handle has to bend over and then kick back out, I'm trying to figure out which way the scroll's got to go, so that way it's on the outside but kicked out, so the handle can come back in and sort of nearly touch the shaft. If you know what I mean. If you remember that picture where I drew and the handle kind of sort of came back in towards the end and flicked out, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Now you can see I'm kind of holding it off on an angle. That's because on the horn, and another thing I found out the hard way is if you don't hold it off on a slight angle from the horn, it will come out crooked, and it makes it a lot trickier to try and figure out later. You can see I've drawn on the anvil now, so we got that nice bend coming through here, and then we got a little scroll on the outside. So I can now hold it up to that sort of little pictogram on the anvil, because it'll come off with wear and tear, and I can figure out from there which way it needs to go. So I've figured out which way the scroll needs to kick out, and now I just need to put the handle in. So it's best that the twist is involved in the whole bend. So now just grabbing it with the hammer. That's probably why my hammer handles are is because I keep doing stuff like that. Now what's happened here is it's gone kind of wonky. So I'm at the point now where I'm trying to figure out how to make it uncrooked. A lot easier to do, I figured out, when you just have them pretty much as the handle would sit, and then you can see them just turning it around going, oh, what do I do here? Basically that's it. That's the handle done. And it's quite a big handle, I will admit that. I did say it while I was making this. I said, well, the handle's for a giant, because clearly it's huge. See there, that's it being square on the corner of the anvil. It is crooked by a fair bit. To fix that, chucking it in the furnace, heating it back up, and just putting a slight twist until that bar is nice and square with the face of that handle. Just give it another brush off and then cool it off, and then moving on to the tip, but we'll do that in part 2. And there's our handle. So it should be cool to the touch-ish. Yep, cool enough to the touch. Up there's still going to be quite warm yet. Alright, so that's our handle. So, good test. Hold it in your hands, see how it feels. It feels big. I can go back to normal audio now. This is good. So I had that other audio on because the rain was really heavy, but now it's back to normal. Yeah, the scroll didn't turn out too bad. I keep buggering this up with the camera, but the scroll didn't turn out too bad. So now we've got to work on the end of it, which should be interesting. All right, so as you remember with the end, basically we're going to fold this over on itself, hammer the crap out of it till it's nice and squashed, dress it off, and then curl the end up and make it nice. So I've never tried forge welding before, so now's as good a time as any. So it's got to go over that way, so I'm going to have to put 90 degree in it, probably about there. So we're going to mark that. Yeah, I reckon about there will do. Alright, that's marked. I'm probably also going to have to draw out this end to a point as well, so that way when I go to bend it over, I'm not trying to draw something out that's already on an angle. I just thought of that. I'm sure you were thinking, oh, I hope he does that first. I just thought of it, so we're going to do that right now. Maybe we'll make this a part 2. So that's part 1. Part 1, the handle done. So that's it.